Ready?
Yeah, it's okay.
All right. So, is it working?
Yeah, it's live. I don't know if I can see if anyone's in here yet. It says,
You
yeah.
might not start till actually 11.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, it's live.
So we'll wait until 11 o'clock and we'll officially get started.
Okay. There's some people coming in now.
Are there?
Yeah. There's like 6 people.
Sweet.
And it says 10 going, 19 interested.
Oh, nice. Yay.
Well, if you can see me, we're just going to wait until 11 and then I'll get going.
Nice.
Do you think the video will show up if it's right?
Mhm.
Yeah?
I think so.
Could be nice. We'll just start it.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds good.
Pretty nice.
Yep. They were pretty hard to put up, actually.
It looks nice and sharp.
Yeah.
I love that it's called the Wow Gallery because it's such a kind of informal but powerful name.
Yeah.
Like spectacular is like too snotty. This is just like,
Yeah. Do they know when they're gonna come paint in the history of life or not?
We're going to have to
Oh, really? Okay.
Everybody but a blue painters.
Yeah.
yeah, basically when this time period becomes like as old as the Pleistocene.
Yeah. That's sounds good. Yeah.
I'm very detail oriented and I tend to be a control freak. So I kind of think it'll be good that we get here.
Yeah, maybe.
It'll look exactly like what I want it to look like.
Yeah.
Okay, I have 10:59.
Yeah.
It's amazing how long minutes are.
Right.
Can we do something different when it's 11?
I don't think so.
I don't know.
Well, because you're live.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not.
But yeah,
No.
she's not
Yeah.
on it yet, so that means that nobody else probably is.
Right.
No, there's some people.
But they
There's,
can't see you.
I think maybe. Well, it says that there's at least 4 viewers right now.
Yeah, but I'm one of them.
Oh, and it doesn't show anything.
I think it's not.
Now it's 11.
Oh, okay.
Are we live?
I think so. Check
Oh, yes, we are.
We are?
Mhm.
We're live?
my
Yay! Exciting.
Yay.
Alright, so hi all Facebook Live watchers. I am Tiffany Santos and we are going to go through and give a tour of the Zuhl Museum. And we're gonna probably give it a couple minutes just to see if anybody else joins us. And yeah, we'll see if anybody joins us in the next couple minutes and then we'll go ahead and get started. You guys feel free to ask any questions in the comments. We will try and answer as many as we can about the collection.
Yes.
See if anybody else joins us.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll play a little video here. Hopefully everybody will be able to see it on our TV here in the museum. So you'll get the same experience that you would as if you were visiting the museum.
There's a note that says you can't really hear you.
No? You can't hear me? Maybe try turning my volume up on my phone. See if that works.
Okay.
Okay, can you hear me now? Is that any better?
Let's see.
I need to speak louder because I can do that too.
Mm. I think.
Are we doing better?
Okay, yeah.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, they
Yeah?
said they can hear
They
it.
can hear?
Mhm.
Awesome, great. We're still learning. This is the first time we've done a Facebook Live.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a little bit of a learning curve. So feel free to tell us if we're having any technical issues or anything like that. Please feel free to help us out and tell us so we can fix them right away. Yeah? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and play this video. Hopefully you'll be able to see it and it'll be loud enough so you can get an idea of the little welcome video that visitors watch when they first come to the museum.
Welcome to the Zuhl Museum, home of the Zuhl collection. I am Herbert Zuhl, and along with New Mexico State University, we welcome you to nature's journey back in time.
The Zuhl collection includes fossils and minerals from around the world and contains the finest collection of petrified wood on display in the country. Many of these specimens have been sliced and polished, bringing out the original textures of the wood as well as the colors and beauty captured during fossilization. The Zuhl collection contains many fantastic specimens including petrified wood, large dinosaur bones, a rare nest of dinosaur eggs, petrified turtles, and world-class minerals. Fossils are formed when organisms are buried by sediment after death. Soft tissues decay and hard bones or shells are replaced by minerals. The fossil and the rock around it harden into stone over time. Petrified wood forms the same way, commonly in swamps where volcanic ash released the silica that replaced the wood with quartz. Petrification of wood often captures the cell structure and growth rings of the wood, enabling us to identify the trees that grew millions of years ago. Mr. and Mrs. Zuhl started their collection in 1973 during a Western vacation trip. They saw a group of men in a field digging out a big log. They had never seen a petrified log before, and the next day worked with the rancher to dig their own log. This experience created an interest in fossils, and the Zuhl collection was on its way. We hope you enjoy your journey back in time with the Zuhl collection.
All right, so that gave you a little bit of introduction on who the Zuhls are and how they started their business. I'll give you a little bit more. So Herb and Joan Zuhl donated their collection to the university in 2000. It first started at the Zuhl Library, and then later on they added on and to the alumni center here to create a museum. And then later on, a few years later, we added even more space to have an even larger, have a couple more galleries. So the Zuhl Museum is three main galleries. We're going to go through the Wow Gallery, the Petrified Wood Gallery, and our History of Life Gallery, and kind of show you guys everything from minerals to tons of petrified wood and fossils. And if you guys have any questions along the way, please feel free to ask. Anything about the collection, anything about the Zuhls, or anything about paleontology, geology, we'll do our best to answer. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So we're gonna start in the Wow Gallery. So this is the Wow Gallery. Kind of give them an overview. Yeah. So even though this is our smallest gallery, it is packed full of stuff. We've got our banded irons here. So our banded irons, we've got everything from banded iron and tiger irons. Same thing, adds a little bit different process to make the different colors and the shapes. The gold, everybody asked this question, is iron pyrite. It's not gold. It's pretty much all iron. They're just basically big iron rocks that look really pretty. Right? It's where we get most of the iron that makes our buildings and our cars. It is also evidence of some of the first living things on Earth. So tiny, tiny little things that look like slimy algae, basically. This one here is about 3 billion years old. So, and our Earth itself is 4.5 billion years old about. So this is pretty early on in our Earth's history, before we had anything crawling around, all right? Just in the water, slimy stuff, basically. And they end up making these beautiful rocks that we have now. All right. I'm not going to hit every single thing in the collection, because if I did that, then we'd be here for a long time. Our collection is very large. And also, we've only got about half our collection on display. So the other half is still in storage. We also have some things in some other buildings on campus. We have stuff in the Zuhl Library still, and we have stuff in Gardner Hall, and a few things in Breland Hall. So if you do come to visit our campus, you can visit some of our other collections as well. So we're going to move on to this huge plaque right here. These are crinoids. This is an entire colony of crinoids. So if you can look close at one of these guys, so they've got this stem, and then they got this top part that looks very flower-like. However, they're not flowers. They are animals. And they're very similar to, they're related to starfish. They behave very similar to like our anemones. So they look like they'd be a plant, and they behave very similar to a plant, but they actually are an animal. They get their food in through the top part. They have a little mouth, a tiny little stomach, all those things. They just don't have a face. All right, so everything living doesn't necessarily have to have a face. This piece is from Morocco. Morocco is all now desert and mountains, but it used to be all underwater. So we got a ton of fossils that come out of Morocco. All right, we're gonna pass on to this guy. So this is called, we call it our rainbow ammonite. So it's made out of ammonite. So ammonite, along with pearl and amber, are the only three minerals, that's what we kind of call minerals, that are made by an organic, right? They're made by something that's living. So this guy was made by the ammonite. He made its shell from this, and it fossilized into this. It only happens in Canada, and they're absolutely gorgeous. It looks like an oil slick, right? All the rainbow colors. All right. We're going to keep moving. You can show the things on the wall as we go. I'm just not going to talk about everything. The reason we call this the wow gallery is basically when you walk in here, your first reaction is going to be wow. You're going to say it probably a few times while you're in here. Because every piece in here we tried to make sure was incredible in its own right. So we've got a mixture of fossils and minerals and other things in here. We've even got some art but every single piece is unique, and every single piece has something that's just amazing about it. So this is the same thing we were talking about, the crinoids. These are 3 individual crinoids. They've been preserved by pyrite, so that's why they're so detailed and all shiny. But you can really see how they look very similar to flowers, all right, or trees. But they lived in the ocean. Also, we're not sure if they were rooted down to the bottom of the ocean, or if they were on driftwood and floating upside down. It's a possibility. There's some paleontologists that think that this is driftwood here, and they were actually anchored to that and floating suspended into the water. Crinoids are still alive today. We call them sea lilies. They live in the deeper part of the oceans, and but they don't look like this. They don't have big long stems anymore, and they're much smaller. Right, and they do not suspend. So we're unsure if the ones that are extinct now, these guys, did suspend or not. Because they're very different from the ones that are alive today. All right, now this is one of our prized possessions. This is an art piece. And it's going to be difficult to show this one on camera because it's big. All right, this is an art piece, and it is called The Ancient Cosmic Seas. It is by an artist called Christine Nguyen. She created this after visiting the collection. And she did a lot of drawing. She did a lot of cyanotypes of the pieces in the collection in our storage, and inspired her to create this piece directly from our collection. So if you look closely onto a few parts, I'll show them this part. You've got outlines of trilobites and ammonites and crinoids and things and fish. These are all directly from our collection. So this piece was inspired and is perfectly placed here at the museum. It is in the University Art Museum's collection, but they have it on loan for us to enjoy. And it's stunning. Did you get the whole thing?
Yeah.
It's big. All right, now we're going to turn around. I'm going to show you something over here. This guy. So this rock is very inconspicuous. It doesn't attract as much attention as it deserves. It just looks like a big black rock. But it is a meteorite. It is an iron meteorite. And it's mostly iron and a little nickel. And it was found in Argentina. It's from a fall, which is a whole bunch of them basically that fell at the same time. It's called the Campo de Cielo. Ours is not the biggest piece in that fall, but it's one of the biggest. The biggest is in the British Museum, but ours is definitely one of the biggest that you'll find. It weighs 135 pounds for being such a little thing. And it weighs a lot. And that's characteristics of meteorites. They're going to weigh a lot more than your average earth rocks, and a lot more than you think they're going to weigh. We've got some other pretty minerals here, like our malachite is gorgeous. All right, let's zoom back around this way and kind of show some of these things. I'm not going to talk about all these things, but we do have some gorgeous rhodochrosite, which is, if you're a gem lover, this is usually a big favorite. But I'm going to talk about this one. See if you can back up and get the whole thing. So I'm going to stand next to it so you can get an idea of how massive this thing is. It's huge. All right, this is me, my arm raised. I'm 5'8", so this is how big this thing is. It's enormous. This is the last piece that Herbert Zuhl purchased before he passed away. So it's very special to us. We have named it a word that I always get wrong, so I'm going to do my best. Beulah's Gate, right? And the reason we named this is because it is named after Herbert's favorite hymn, and one that he used to sing every time he would drive back into Las Cruces from going to a gym show or somewhere else. So it was really special, and this we feel like encompasses him. It's one of the nicest pieces of Arizona petrified wood to come out of Arizona. It's probably one of the nicest that will ever come out, right? It's very special. It even has some amethyst geodes going on up here, has some beautiful knots, has all this rainbow colored wood, right? It really epitomizes what the Arizona petrified wood is all about. I don't know if the song will play. I don't think it'll show up on the video.
Okay.
All right. And if you come here, there is a little button you can press to hear the hymn. I don't think it's going to show up. You're going to be able to hear it on the video, but if you come in person, you can push the button and hear the hymn yourself. All right. So now we're going to show you these guys. These are the cathedral geodes. So the reason we call them cathedral geodes is because they're huge, right? They are on the border of Brazil and Uruguay. It's the only place you find them this big. A geode, in very simple terms, is basically when you get some sort of lava flow or magma activity and you get bubbles and they solidify. You get big holes or caves. And these usually fill up with some kind of water. It brings along with it the minerals that precipitate out crystals. The kind of crystal will depend entirely on whatever minerals are in the water and in the ground. These ones happen to have a fair amount of iron, so that's why these quartz crystals are purple, which is we call amethyst. It's just a purple version of quartz. Same crystal structure, just you add a little bit of iron, you get the purple. But these only happen in one place in the border of Brazil and Uruguay. You'll find smaller ones in other locations, but not near this big. Right? They had very specific circumstances to create these.
Before you go on, Helene would like to see some close-ups of
Oh, yeah.
Beulah's Gate.
Show some close-ups of like get the amethyst and like the knot and some of the colors and stuff. 'Cause yeah, you can't really get a good, I mean, we're gonna do our best to show you via virtual, but some of these, it's hard to get a good view unless you're in person.
Great, thank you. Or Helene says thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. All right, now we're gonna show, this piece right here is a really good example. We'll get some close-ups of this one. Good example of rainbow wood, what we call the rainbow wood from Arizona. Just all these colors, we've got purples, yellows, blacks, reds, whites. All these mix of colors are gonna be in here. All right. So these guys down here are different versions of quartz. So quartz can come in a fair amount of colors. We've got our pink rose quartz in this big sphere. Most all of your rose quartz you're going to see is going to be carved. Because it really rarely forms in single crystals, it really only forms massively. So it'd just be a big chunk unless you carve it into something pretty. So most of the rose quartz you're going to find is going to be carved. And we've got our quartz. This is a single crystal of quartz, which is pretty amazing. That's clear quartz. Then we've got our amethyst, like what we talked about before. We've got a cluster of quartz here. And then we've got our citrine. So this citrine is interesting because this citrine is not a natural citrine. This citrine is heated amethyst. Natural citrine forms in much smaller crystals usually, not big chunks like this. And it's going to be a much paler yellow usually. But interestingly enough, it doesn't really detract a ton from the value of this. It's still really sought after. Basically what it is, it's an amethyst that you put in a big oven and heated it up to turn this citrine color, but it's still really sought after. And then we've got our smoky. So smoky quartz, it's formed when you've got aluminum crystals and they kind of interact with some irradiation. It's a whole process, but yeah. And this one you could also heat and turn into clear quartz. Nobody does though, because smoky quartz is beautiful. But if you left it out in the sun, it would eventually turn clear. All right, so we're gonna make our way back. That's why, do you want to get, while we're walking this, you just get a view of the chrysocolla and the Amazonite? Mm-hmm. I'm not gonna talk about them too much, but just make sure you get it, especially that chrysocolla over there, that's really cool. Okay. These are just some of the minerals that we've got that are pretty amazing. That chrysocolla is one of my favorites, it's gorgeous. And any questions you guys have about anything, please ask. I'm not going into a ton of detail. I want to get a view in the case of the minerals real fast before we move on. We've got a lot of spheres in the collection. You'll see as we go through. They're done by a machine and it's purely for aesthetics. Okay, let's move on. We're going to go into our petrified wood gallery. So we have a question, what was the rainbow colored piece? Was it from a tree?
Yes, that's a tree stump, right?
The tree stump that we talked about, the rainbow wood, yes, that's from a tree. That's a tree stump, just like all these guys. The rainbow colors just came from the various trace minerals that made all the different colors. So most all of our petrified wood is going to be silica based, which is quartz. Right, so it's most all of them are, that's the base, that's the majority of the minerals. All the colors you're going to see are due to all these trace minerals that make up the rock. So even though some of these pieces look just like the tree fell down yesterday, that's not the actual color the tree was. That's the color of what it was buried in. So it was buried and all these like sandy colored minerals were there, that's what you're going to get. If you had all these iron minerals and all these rich other colors, you're going to get your rainbow ones, your reds, your blacks. All right, so you're going to get a lot more colors depending on whatever it was buried in. So we'll kind of start off going around the room. So we have this room divided up into location. So this half, all of these guys up to here is all going to be from Oregon. All these kind of browny colors. We do get a few reds. There's one little spot called Hampton Butte that has a higher amount of iron, so you'll get different colors. But all these kind of tans and things are going to be from Oregon. Get a close-up of this one. This one's really cool. It did have some dry rot happening, but it preserves the ring structure really well. So this is kind of typical of a lot of the Oregon pieces. I mean, you could count the rings, you could look through a microscope and see the original cell structure of this tree to identify what kind of tree it is. It's that well preserved. A lot of them from Oregon are like that. We've had researchers come and do dendrochronology on our Oregon trees, on our slabs, where they're tree ring scientists. So they see what was the different weather patterns and the climate and things like at the time. And they can tell those from how these trees grew and their ring structure. So there's a lot to learn from these Oregon ones because when they petrified, the petrification took over exactly what the cell structure looked like. We're going to see some other examples like our ones from Arizona or Nevada, and the crystals took over and you don't have any cell structure left. There's barely any actual structure of the original tree left anymore. These little guys are from an odd area in Oregon called Hampton Butte that made these red kind of colors. They look similar to Arizona ones. And you're going to get your stinking water, which are these cool black and tan pieces. They're very distinctive looking. And then you got these Schwartz Canyon ones, which turn this really cool pink color. So next we're going to hit into Arizona. So the majority of our collection is from Arizona. There's quite a lot that pulls out. We get this question a lot from the Oregon and Arizona pieces. Did we pull off of the petrified wood forest? No, they are not pulled off the protected petrified wood forest. They are pulled off of ranchers that live surrounding these forests that get contracted with to have their pieces pulled off. Yeah, so they're not pulled off the protected land. So this is Arizona from here on this wall. This is where you get the big pieces. These big ones are from a kind of tree called Araucaria. And they're like really tall pine trees that only have branches at the very top. They're still around today, but they don't live in the United States. This one's really cool. It's got a lot of purples and yellows, which are the rarer minerals to find. So they're much more sought after by collectors. You've got these pink and green are from a kind of tree called Woodworthia. These green veins are minerals, right? That's not a fill that we put in there. And you've got these little guys here are from St. John's, Arizona, and they really have this cool pink and gray coloration and all these veins that tend to take over of crystals. Some of them even have some fungus happening in there, I think, that gets crystallized. So the Arizona wood was formed in volcanic flows, but they also involved water. So you kind of get them, they don't burn up the trees, they basically get protected. So when they get buried by these big lava flows, they take in all the minerals, which is all these incredible iron and things. They make all these beautiful red colors. I'll make sure you get it in this case. So this is a little explanation about how wood gets its colors. So we've got all these different Arizona things, and then we've got this really cool green one that has been replaced by chromium. And then you've got, all the tans and browns that we talked about earlier as well. So there's really a variety when it comes to petrified wood. And we do have, I didn't mention this before, we do have the largest and finest collection of petrified wood on display in the country. We're possibly the world, but still working on that fact, right? We like to say so anyway. Yeah, there's some more Arizona pieces.
I think there's a question.
What's the question?
Can any type of tree become petrified wood?
Yes, any type of tree can become petrified wood. It all depends on the circumstances that it was petrified. So like I said, majority of ours were petrified in some kind of big event. So big lava flows or huge mudslide kind of things. We get singular trees randomly that happen in other circumstances. There's some we're going to talk about in a minute that happened in kind of a bog area, basically, where they fell down and were a low oxygen environment. That's the key. There has to be a low oxygen environment so that the wood doesn't decay before it has a chance to mineralize or to permineralize. But yeah, the kind of tree is not really.
And do we have pieces from New Mexico?
We do. I'll show that. We have one.
Okay.
Well, technically we have two. One's outside, one's inside. But yeah, we do have one, and it's really cool. But there does happen, petrification in New Mexico does happen, but it doesn't happen as nicely. So they tend to mineralize, but they'll be very crumbly or very, they look almost like cement. They'll be super heavy, and they won't shine up no matter how much you polish them, they won't shine, right? Because all the shine that you see on all the pieces is just from being polished. There's no epoxy, there's no nothing on these pieces. The shine is from just the minerals themselves. So the minerals that tend to replace them in New Mexico just tended to not be quite as, they weren't as high, like the quartz content and that kind of thing. So they tend to, I've got a couple pieces that just fall apart when you try to hold them. Or they're so heavy you think you're like holding a concrete pillar, right? So this half is Washington State. So they also preserve very well, but you get slightly darker colors than the really light ones, but they do preserve the details extremely well. This one right here is my favorite. It's got 4 knots, and all these beautiful rings that you see here. And it looks like a board that just came off the side of a barn. But like I said, even though those look like the color the tree was, it's not. It's the color that it was buried in. Now from here on, we're gonna get our Nevada pieces. And I like to say, these are a little crazy, right? Nevada's slightly crazy, right? So these ones, the minerals just took over, right? So you don't get the nice edge of the tree anymore. You don't get any ring structure whatsoever, right? The minerals just went crazy and took over. They're beautiful and they're extremely abstract looking. But yeah, they don't, it's really difficult to tell anything scientific, like what kind of tree it was, that kind of thing, from these. These ones are some ones from Utah. They're very similar to they're basically connected with the Arizona ones, so they're all gonna look very similar. This little black and white guy is really cool. I say little, he's pretty big. I'm standing next to him, he's pretty big. Our definition of little is a little skewed. And these ones are slices from the same log. This little section over here is what we call our around the world section. So it's basically the smaller pieces that came from other places. So this is China, right? These are Wyoming, and this is what I tell you about the bog area. So all of this right here is like a fungus basically that got fossilized. These are Madagascar, which had this super cool pattern that they always have. They just look really neat. Then we've got some Montana and some more Wyoming, and this guy from Argentina.
So we have a couple of questions.
Yes.
How are they determined to be petrified wood if none of the structure is left?
That's a good question. So I say most of the structure is not there. There's usually always some structure. So there's either going to be some kind of outside look, or you're going to see at least some faint markings of of what the tree used to be like. Here, for example, there's no ring structure really. There's some faint lines, but there is a center, which is the heart. And then you're going to see kind of it radiating out from here. And then this outside edge is very similar. It can be very tricky though, because there's a dinosaur bone we have in the collection. And it has tricked every single one of me and all my interns thinking that it's petrified wood. Because it's agatized just like the Arizona pieces, all these bright colors. It looks very similar. You have to really get close and look at it to realize that no, it's a dinosaur bone. So yeah, it can still fool you, even though, it's not. But another part is these are coming from locations where there's known to be petrified wood. So most of the time when they're looking for these, they've been looking for them.
So we have another question about these two slabs from the same piece.
Oh yeah.
What would a piece like that, one of those, cost? Like if I wanted it in my dining room, for my dining room table.
In the few thousands.
Okay, several $1,000s?
Several $1,000s, yeah.
Okay.
Also, it's good to note that petrified wood is increasing in value. So if you want a good investment, petrified wood is it. They are less and less coming out of the ground because there is just less and less there. Also, some of the ranchers and things are selling their land to BLM and things, so they're not pulling out as much anymore. You can't pull off on this government land. So there is less and less coming out, so the value is increasing. So
Okay, so
these
go
pieces,
shopping.
yeah, these pieces are always going to go up. All right, now this, we asked about the New Mexico piece. This is my New Mexico piece. It's down here. This is our New Mexico piece, the green one. It is from the Zuni Mountains, and it is copper minerals of malachite and azurite that make it those colors. Yeah. And some of these other ones are from other places. We've got Texas, Wyoming, always makes this cool blue agate called the Blue Forest, right? And then we've got some Montana down there. And these guys are all palms. These guys and then these ones are all palms. So palm is not a tree. Palm is a woody plant that just happens to grow really big, but is not a tree. There's no heart, there's no rings, right?
So we have another question about how did the Zuhl ship it to all of this to New Mexico? Where was it stored? What's the estimate of the total weight of the collection?
Oh gosh. I don't think
We actually calculated that.
Did
once,
you? I
but
don't
can't
have.
remember.
Oh yeah, we did, huh? Because we were looking at how much it would be stored. I don't remember how much
I
the whole
didn't
total weight is. It's really heavy. I mean, some of our pieces, like some of our larger pieces, weigh, 1,000 to 2,000 pounds. I mean, they're a lot. They're heavy. Like our huge 13.5-foot table in the middle here. That one took 2 pallet jacks and like 13, 14 guys to get it up on its stand that it's on now. So yeah, these are very heavy. What was the other part of the question?
How are they shipped?
How are they shipped? Okay, so when we get pieces, they're shipped usually big crates in big trucks, pretty much. Yeah, just like you would ship any other big furniture or big thing. You just takes a lot of foam and usually specialized crates that are built for these pieces. I don't know how the Zuhls originally got their stuff here, because I wasn't here when the collection originally came. So I'm not sure. I know that the big log we have in front that you guys saw in the video at the beginning, that was on a flatbed and then got lifted up with a crane. We've had other pieces of ours moved by crane as well. Yeah.
Another question is, do the pieces have any sort of protective coating on them, or are they just polished?
They're just polished. There's no protective coating on anything. Everything is just polished. The shine you're seeing is from the minerals. So it's the high quartz content, the high silica content, just like how quartz is shiny, that's why they're shiny. Yeah, so there's no epoxy, there's no nothing on them at all. Petrified wood is a very tough mineral in general, especially like our Arizona ones that are full of like the agate color. All that mineral, it's really tough. So they can withstand a fair amount. It's also really tough to polish and carve because it is a really hard mineral. How are we doing?
We have 20 minutes.
Okay, let's go into the History of Life gallery. This is our History of Life gallery. It goes along geologic time. So we are in the process of getting a few things in this gallery fixed. So you will see a few things that need to be done and some notes on the walls and that kind of thing. We're going to get a timeline painted on the top. And some of our pieces are a little out of their location because we're having to contract with some special contractors to move some of our heavier, larger pieces. But it starts at the beginning of geologic time, just like we talked about banded iron. All right, this is some more banded irons. As well as some stromatolites. This one's a stromatolite there. Yeah. Right, so that's our Precambrian. So this is before things started moving around. Then we're going to move on to our Paleozoic. We get things moving around. We get trilobites, the first animal with eyes and legs. Right? They could actually see images with their eyes, and their eyes were hard, so their real eyes would fossilize, which is pretty awesome. And they were everywhere, tons and tons of them. From tiny little guys to our big horseshoe crab, our mustache one that we just saw a minute ago. We call him a mustache trilobite because he looks like he has a mustache. All right, like I said, we've got some pieces that are out of sync. This guy does not go here. This big giant sequoia will eventually move on the other wall next to our sloth. It's from the Cenozoic time period. But as you can see, it's very large, so it's going to take quite a while to get it moved. We have giant sequoias still alive today, but not this specific species. This specific species is extinct. But they're huge. Give you a little perspective. This is me next to this guy. Right? Enormous. Right? Super big. Okay. So we'll move on. I'm going to skip some of these because we talked about crinoids already. This is just a single. Got some smaller fossils, some plants. And this is our palm. Our fern. This is our fern. So this guy, ferns used to be trees, not just the bushes that we have today. They used to be full-on trees. All right, we're going to turn around and look at this guy right here. This guy his nickname is Archie. He's an Archosaurus. Archaria, sorry. This is an Archaria. He is from Texas. He is also the only full skeleton of an Archaria in the world. We have the only one. Move on to this guy. This is Zoli. A lot of our pieces have nicknames. We don't nickname them. They get nicknamed by the people who we purchased them from or who found them. This is Zoli. He is a pelycosaur. He is a Dimetrodon. So those bones sticking out of his back would have been a big sail on his back. And we think it was probably used most likely to regulate temperature or more likely to just show off. All right? He was trying to make himself bigger. He is what we call a non-mammalian synapsid. So synapsids, we call them that because they have one hole in their skull. We only count one side of the skull. You don't count both sides. So he's got one hole in the side of his skull. So if you see that behind his ear, that hole, behind his eye, there's that hole right there. That's not his ear. That's a hole. So that is the same as that's called a temporal fenestra. Just like ours, our temples right here, the soft spot, that's a hole in our skull. We are synapsids. Every mammal is a synapsid. We are mammalian synapsids. He, or she, who knows, is a non-mammalian synapsid. All of the non-mammalian synapsids went extinct. All right? But he is closer related to us than he is to any dinosaur or reptile. So just because he looks like he should be, he's not. All right. These are some amphibians, reptile, that also were walking around the same time as Zoli was. Another one that's out of place, another giant sequoia that will go in a different location. Giant vertebrae, some dinosaur bones. Trilobites that are out of place, they're supposed to be over there with the trilobites, but as you can see, it's very large, so we're still working on moving it. All right, now we've got this guy. This is a femur. I'll stand next to it so you can see how tall it is. All right, this guy. So this is a femur of an Atlasaurus. It was from Morocco, found in the Atlas Mountains, hence its name. It's a big sauropod, so you can get a little view of what it looked like. This is it. This is its femur there, right? Huge. One of the biggest sauropods. Sauropods are just the dinosaurs with the long necks. An early conifer tree. Make our way. This is another swimming reptile. And these are both swimming reptiles. These guys, Ichthyosaur and Plesiosaurus. I always mess that one's name up. That one's new. Oh, you gotta show this one. This is one of my favorites. We have a lot of ammonites in the collection, a lot of ammonites, but this is one of my favorites. Spikes. And it's uncoiled. So it's a variety that was more open. Another one that's in the wrong spot. My Arizona petrified wood, but this one's cool because it is the largest one that was ever cut and polished. So it goes, it's pretty massive.
So we have another question. Jean asks, is the museum still acquiring pieces to add to the collection?
We're on pause at the moment, but yes, we will acquire more pieces. The Zuhl set up a fund that we will still be able to purchase pieces after they passed. Right now, we're just kind of on a pause to kind of get what we have in a good situation and organize how we want. We just redid the museum. Now it's time to redo some other places, right? But like I said, we have about half still in storage, so we have a lot still that haven't even been seen yet. This is a baccolite. This is baccolite grandis, so it's huge. There would have been a head down here coming out. You can see a little image of what it would have looked like.
Please don't touch.
I don't know how they actually swam in the water. They don't look very efficient, but more ammonites. Like I said, we have a lot of ammonites from a lot of locations. You can kind of get a view of what the inside looks like. These are mosasaurs over on this side. So this is not a baby and a mama. This one is just an earlier version. So they first started out looking small like this. He actually wasn't that great of a swimmer, honestly. And then they turn into this. Later on, they evolved into this massive, this is just the head. The body would have gone to the end of the room. They're related to snakes. If you want to get a view of the extra set of teeth in there, there's another set of teeth. Would have held its prey in its mouth. That extra set of teeth would have acted like a ratchet to keep the prey in so it could swallow it whole, just like a snake. It also could dislocate its jaw to eat something that was bigger than its own head, just like a snake. So you can really see the relation. All right, the little one has an extra set of teeth too, but they're much smaller. Very similar to some large snakes have this second set of teeth as well. You just don't see them as well. They're so small. All right. Now we're into the Cenozoic. So the Cenozoic, we've got fish, or cool crab, megalodon tooth, right? The largest shark that ever lived. Mammoth tooth, turtles. Got some awesome fish. And then this cool guy is a crab. His lights went out, so hopefully you'll be able to see him. He looks like he's gonna crawl off the rock. my favorites. He's a favorite among the kids that usually come in here because he's right at eye level with most of the kids. All right, this is our baby woolly mammoth. Nickname is Borealis. He's from Alaska. It's a composite, so it's majority of one skeleton, and then what bones were missing are added from various other baby mammoths. The reason they do this is because it's very, very rare to find baby mammoth bones, because they would have been easy prey. They would have, the bones would have just scattered, gotten destroyed. Some of them are not real, like the toes are not real. They're constructed. The end of its tail and a few other bones are not real. Most of its skull is real, most of it. All the ribs are real. Most of the leg bones are real. Its tusks are real. Borealis is a big favorite. And this is one of our newer guys. This is Sid. Sid is a giant sloth, a giant ground sloth. It looks fierce, but it was a plant eater. It used those big, massive claws to get up on trees and to stand up and eat the leaves and things from the top of the trees. And those goofy teeth were the same idea, same thing. This is back when the mammals were the ruling species. Give me a little image from what he used to look like. That's what he used to look like. Looks a little more cuddly when he's all full of fat and hair, right? Than his big, scary looking claws. So that is the Zuhl Museum. Does anybody have any questions about anything they saw or anything else to do with the Zuhls or the collection? I'd be happy to answer. We do have a courtyard as well, but I'm not going to show that because right now our fountain and everything is getting fixed. There's not as much to see out there right now.
Is this being recorded so we can download the tour for later viewing?
I don't think so. Like I said, it's the first time we've done Facebook Live. Next time we will definitely do that. If you're interested, we're also going to post some other videos we have of the collection, that kind of thing, on we've got a YouTube channel. So we've got a lot of our other videos on there as well.
We have lots of people saying, thank you, amazing presentation, your knowledge is impressive.
Thank you. I love sharing. I love talking about the collection, if you can understand. I really like talking about it. It's a really cool collection. And it's amazing. I mean, you come in here and you expect it's a little building and you expect little things, and you come in and it's this incredibly mind-blowing Smithsonian quality stuff. Is that it? Okay. All right. Thank you guys for viewing. And please keep up with we always posting stuff on our social media. Also, our website has a ton of resources on there, so you can see more information about the collection. And of course, come and visit us if you get a chance.
All right.